This is the Alone on the Couch podcast. I am your host, KB. As always, you can find me here every Sunday where I talk interviews and play music and just get really deep into my interpersonal thoughts. As always, follow me IG, Twitter, Facebook at Podcast AOTC, and I have a merch store now where you can buy hoodies and shirts and all kind of properly AOTC branded items. So definitely check that out. Link is in the bio, as well as shout out to my A1 Day Ones for always supporting me. Without you, I would not be here in the position that I am in. Today, boy, howdy, surfers, I am a little nervous. Because if you realize and follow me on my IG video, I'm about to get really into some interpersonal relationship things that I don't really get deep into with y'all. But it's just another layer of growth. And so today I will be talking with relationship solutionist, Miss Suzette, as we'll be diving into these things. So stick around, stay tuned, Alone on the Couch.
But look at here! Look!
Alone on the
I got beans, creams, potatoes, tomatoes, lamb, ram, creams, potatoes, tomatoes, chicken, rat.
Alone on the Couch. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to be diving deep into my interpersonal relationships and things. But before I actually get really into that, I wanted to bring on Miss Suzette. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking.
I feel like before we actually get deep into these things, we should at least be very cordial, even though we've had a conversation way before the podcast and everything. So it's very much so a big privilege to have you on the couch.
Oh, it's a privilege for me to be here too. We did have a wonderful conversation. And ever since then, I have just been waiting for ways to reconnect with you. And so when you shouted me out and said, hey, it's time, I was like, yay! Here we go. I'm going to have more wonderful, juicy conversation.
And juicy it definitely will be, because honestly, Miss Suzette, this is one of those conversations that is pretty scary. I'm not going to lie, because I am very personal with the listeners, but never to the degree of getting this personal about myself. It's always been just finding out who I am as a person, but this is a different level. But before we get into that, I really wanted to give my listeners a sense of who you are. And I really love the title Relationship Solutionist, because it's so different from the idea of coaching and all these other things. So how did that come into play?
When you live long enough, you realize that you're not an expert at relationships. Even people that claim to be relationship experts, many of them have terrible relationships. They're going through divorces and problems just like anybody else. And so therefore, I never wanted to be an expert. I felt like that would be disingenuous. But I am a very astute learner. I'm a good student. And so the insights that I have as a solutionist are ones that I've learned myself, and they're pearls of light and pearls of wisdom that I can pass along to somebody else.
Nice.
And so therefore, I help with solutions, help people to come up with their own relationship solutions, because I believe the answer is always within them. I just help guide them to the answer.
And I very much so appreciate that, because I know we've had a conversation way before the podcast and things to that nature, as I mentioned earlier, about you are helping men and women speak the language of the opposite sex. And I'm not gonna lie to you, no cap, Miss Suzette, I need help speaking the language, as well as some other things that we'll get into. But before that...
Well, you're not alone. Just know that you are not alone.
And how long have you been doing this for?
Oh my gosh, I've been doing this for a long time. Whenever you're called or purposed to do something, there are little flashes of that all while you're growing up.
Yeah.
You just don't have a label for it. And people were always drawn to me because I've always been a truth teller. And I've always been an illuminator. And so people have always felt comfortable telling me their deepest, darkest secrets because I never judged them. I had a respect for humanity, and I always saw them as worthy, even when they did things that they felt like they shouldn't do. Of course, I went to college, and back in that day, like they said, when dinosaurs roamed the earth, and I went to college. My main thing, what my parents were more concerned about was me getting a good education so that I could get out and get a good job. That was the
Mm,
thing.
mm,
But while I was in college, I discovered that I was really drawn to psychology. There were certain courses that I was supposed to take for my degree, and all that.
mhm.
But I stumbled upon basic psychology. I took a basic psychology course. And next thing I knew, I was taking every psychology course they were offering because I was just mesmerized by it and it resonated inside of me in a real, real way. But then I got to the end when it was time to declare the major and everything. And it was a toss up between mathematics, which I already had an aptitude for,
Mhm.
and psychology. And they told me that if I wanted to make the kind of money in psychology that I would make in my math, going in the
Right.
math path, that I'd have to stay in college one more year.
Mm.
And I was already sick of college. So I left college and I got a math degree. But what you're purposed to do always trumps what you're skilled to do.
Right.
And though I was skilled and I had an aptitude for math, my purpose was as an illuminator. My purpose was to help people to discover who they really are and what they already have inside of them, that power inside of them
Mm,
to be able to appropriate exactly what their soul desired. And so life brought me back.
mm,
It brought me back around time and time again. And so I went try to go the counseling way, and I was do a substance abuse counselor. And while the techniques and the skills and all of that resonated with me,
mhm,
that population was so much one that were very much known for being in denial and resistant. And a lot of
mhm.
times the court was the reason why they would even come and seek me out. They weren't happy to be there, to say
Right.
the least. And so that resistance, and I started feeling like, gosh, why is it so hard? This makes it so hard. And so, of course, I burned out
Mhm.
because it was the right information, but it was the wrong fit, the wrong population. It came back around. Coaching came in, and it was like, with coaching, people seek you out because they want your help. And so I found in that whole coaching that I could really bring the best of who I was to the table, and people wanted it. And
Mm.
that's what brought me into life coaching and relationship solutioning. I want to say solutioning. Is that a thing? I think we'll make it a thing.
Well,
Relationship solutioning.
I think it's acceptable, and I'm definitely glad that you're here to be the illuminating or light to my path. We'll make that a thing too. For me personally, I really think the last relationship that I had, like the last current relationship, was the catalyst of why we're having the conversation today. And
Okay.
there's played some other factors into it as well because I've spoken with other people that I am with, and I've even learned lessons through other people on IG that I've seen, my fellow podcasters and fellow Black business owners and things. Shout out Lana, the influencer, because I jumped on her live and she talked about the importance of communication. I realize is my mom has this thing to where it's one thing to have a problem and not know you have a problem. And then it's
Mm,
one thing to have a problem and be aware of that problem. And for me,
yeah.
that is where I am at, is because I
Okay.
understand my problem and I'm very aware of it because I know I am trash.
You're
I'm
trash.
let me elaborate. Let me
You
elaborate.
got to, because I'm 60 years old, so you
W-
got to break it
yeah,
down for me.
let me elaborate. And what I mean by that is that I'm as a person not trash. It's just that I've done bad things when it's come to relationships, such as the lack of
Gotcha.
communication. And I have done it all. No cap. I have done every trash thing that you can think of, from cheating to all of it.
Mm,
And part of it is essential of youth, but I also know too that I was kind of feeling a void for
yeah.
pain that I really didn't look into. Because what a lot of people don't know is that I used to be married and it ended badly. And it
Mm,
wasn't just like one person's part. we both were doing bad things to each other. We both were cheating on each other, and there wasn't good communication. And instead of taking the time to heal from it, because I got married at 21, 22.
Oh, yeah, you were just legal.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
but that is how I was raised. We were raised in the ideal of you go to school, go to college, get married, have a family, and when that system didn't work, I was lost. And instead of trying to understand or find the system that did work, I just filled it with people that powered my happiness instead of finding happiness within. And as
Mhm.
I grew up and kind of evolved and figured out things for myself and understanding of what I like and don't like, I still didn't quickly put it into practice because I was still allowing things to flex on my boundaries and things. And it's just now at the age of 31 to where I am officially like, I don't want that and I don't need that. And this is what I'm trying to do with my life.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
and when you're actually, and I think the part for me is that I'm actually trying. I'm trying to understand myself. Cuz where I thought I was growing, I wasn't growing at my highest potential. And now I am trying to grow at my highest rate. But in order for me to do that, I feel like I do have to acknowledge everything that I've done. And I'm not expecting like this grandiose world vision type earth shattering change that I feel like most people will probably look for. It's just that
Mhm.
I just want to acknowledge it and know and make these changes in things such as better communicating and speaking the right language. Cause I'm not afraid of love. I'm not afraid of happiness, but I also know that I can't give something that I don't have. And that means like a skill, you have to learn it.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And I first of all, I just have to say kudos because to be sitting here with a man that's 31 years old that is willing to be this honest and this forthcoming and saying, I don't know. I have an idea. I've done the work. I've gotten an idea of where I'm at, but I don't quite know how to get to that place of true awakening, that place where I feel like I'm there, that I can confidently now bring myself to the table and feel like I know I've arrived and I know I'm being able to offer to somebody the very thing that I desire the most.
Right.
And all of us want love. We all want it. But here's the thing. The thing is, many of us, when it came to relationships, all we knew is we were attracted. I found this person attractive,
Hmm.
right? And so we've been going off of attraction, but nobody ever really taught us how to be in a relationship. Many of us are doing we look like we're in one, but in order to be in a relationship, we have to relate. We have to be able to relate. And key to communicating came to me and I don't know if I told you this before, but I remember I was one of those people that I was like laying on a bed crying and praying, and I was getting sick of it, and I was like, God, why is it? Why is it that every man that I'm attracted to is emotionally unavailable? Why is that the case? I'm a good person.
Hmm.
I'm God fearing. I meet all the check boxes. I got my own job. I can cook. I can do all these things.
Hmm. Hmm.
I smart. I'm intuitive,
Right.
and I'm kind. I'm charismatic. So why is it that everybody else out there seems to be finding true love, And the people that are winking and nodding and waving at me, I can't seem to hold their attention. They're interested in the beginning, but the longer we're together, they seem to get distracted, right? And I couldn't figure it out. I'll never forget the aha. The aha when I was going, why come I keep attracting men that are unavailable? Why do I keep doing that? And I heard this voice say to me deep inside, said, because you're emotionally unavailable. Many of us want love, but we don't know how to be loved. We want someone to love us for who we are, but when you don't know who you are, you don't know who they're loving. And if you haven't resolved within your own soul that you are enough, flaws and all, that you're worthy, things that you've done in relationships might have been what did you say? Waste?
Yeah.
It might have been all of that. But as Maya Angelou says, when you know better, you do better.
Right.
Right. And so I would say that it's in going deep enough inside where there is no lie. Alanis Morissette said that in an interview with Oprah Winfrey. She said that we have to go deep enough down inside of ourselves where there is no lie. And what that means to me is you go deep enough down inside of yourself where you don't have to ask for permission. You don't have to ask, is this okay for me? You don't have to ask. Something inside of you knows and informs you.
Right.
And many of us don't want to go that deep inside because usually it's very painful, first of all. And then secondly, we don't have the ability, as smart as we are, to be able to see our blind spots. Right?
Right.
That's why we need a guide. We know how to be attracted. We know how to respond out of attraction, but we don't know how to be in a relationship, how to show up in a relationship, how to be present. Because if you're not present with yourself and okay with all the things about yourself, if you haven't made peace with it, then you can't bring that person to the table, right? And so that's part of why I know there's a purpose to this conversation and a purpose to what I do. Because in order for me to take you into dark places, I had to go first. I had to go to hell to find myself and bring myself out. Right?
Right. Ooh.
And many of us don't want to go there. We think we do. Intellectually, we do. Do we desire it? Yes, we do. But many of us, we haven't sought a guide, someone who's been there to that place, because people can't take you where they haven't been.
I think that's a very beautiful point because this morning I was jogging. I do it to just clear my mind, and it is part of my workout process. And I went jogging a little bit earlier than what I normally do. I was listening to a motivational speech while I was jogging because it just helps me keep pace with running if I'm listening to something motivational. And the person said on the speech that as humans, we naturally limit ourselves. And we have to undo that natural limitation. And our minds want to automatically focus on the things that we're not doing and how that inhibits the successes of the things that we want to achieve. And I remember our conversation before. You cited someone, I can't remember who, but it said that, we should not be allowed to roam our minds without adult supervision.
Iyanla Vanzant said that.
Yes.
And that what she was saying is you have roamed the halls of your mind for all this time looking for answers. But without supervision, you're going to keep right on perpetuating the same pain because nobody has challenged you to point you in another direction. We are creatures of habit. And the reason that we go in the same places in our minds is because we've had a long time to do that. So we naturally go where we know. And if you want to experience something that you've never had, somebody's got to lead you to a place you've never been.
Right.
So yeah, you're right. That's what she said. I had to write that down.
I remember when you said that, it stuck with me. And that when we had that conversation, that really stuck with me. When I initially heard it, it was beautiful, but I was attracted more to the beauty of the statement than the full meaning of the statement.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's to a place to where I am trying to understand the meaning, because I know I suck at a lot of things. Communication being one of them, expression of feelings and emotion is another one, because I have been through a lot to where I did not have the opportunity to take time to sort those things out. It was
Mm-hmm.
because of how I grew up, because of the things that I've been through, the trials that I've been through, all the gypsying around and moving around and just trying to put on the facade of a normal Black man.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up putting all those emotions in a box. And 19-year-old Kelby, the box was really big. So it's easy for those emotions to get lost inside the box. And I read something to where it's just like, if you ignore a problem long enough, you have a 50-50 chance, a 50% chance of it going away and a 50% chance of it ruining your life. And as
Mm-hmm.
I grew up and I kept on putting things in that box, I realized that the emotions that I were putting in the box was getting bigger. And as I grew up, the box was getting smaller.
Mm.
And so, where I
Yeah.
had the aptitude to ignore it or will it away, I no longer can stuff things in that box anymore as a 31-year-old.
Yeah. And you know what? When you were saying there was a 50-50 chance, what rose up in my heart was no, there's a 100% chance of ruining your life.
Mm-hmm.
It's not 50-50.
I know.
When you stuff something down, whatever we don't deal with, all it does is it becomes infected. All it does is it gets harder and harder to deal with. And it will 100% ruin your life. It might not mean that you end up being a drug addict or an alcoholic,
Mm-hmm.
but your relationships, your ability to feel, your ability to be intimate, your ability to be vulnerable,
Mm-hmm.
your ability to show up as who you are without holding back, your ability to accept yourself. Because when you stuff it down, that says there's something wrong with me. There's something wrong with this. So I got to stuff this down. I got to hide it.
Right.
By virtue of suppressing, you're already saying to yourself, there's something wrong. So I got to hide this. There's something wrong. So I got to compensate for this. There's something wrong. So I got to earn my way into self acceptance
Mm.
because of this over here. But true intimacy is when you go into that place and you sit in that pain. And some people, the pain, depending on the degree of pain,
Right.
they can't do it by themselves. They need somebody to be able to talk to them because it is so excruciating. They end up in the fetal position. So somebody got to bring them back.
Mm.
But all normal pain, where it's not so deeply traumatizing that you really do need to see someone in the mental health professional to help you in that way. But our normal stuff down stuff, we need a guide. We need somebody to sit with us to get us outside of that punisher that we've become, that critic, that inner critic that we've become.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Somebody to say, no, that's okay. No, you're not bad because of it. You're just this. No, you were just scared. No, anybody raised the way you were raised would have done what you've done. So no, it doesn't mean that you're bad. It means you never found a healthy way to sort out your pain.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
There has to be, they say what energy is neither lost nor destroyed.
Right.
It just moves on from one, I guess, morphs from one thing into another or something like that. I know I'm getting that mixed up, but you know what I
Right.
mean.
Right.
And so that energy, there's nothing wrong with the energy, but there's something wrong with the focus of that energy.
Right.
And so what you have to do is you have to allow the authentic you, the maturing you, I call it the divine you, to be able to look at the scared and wounded you and say, I got this. I know you're scared. I know this is weird, but I got this. I got enough objectivity.
Right.
That I'm going to bring you with me. Bishop Jake said once, somebody was asking him about fear. They said, well, how do you deal with fear? You're not afraid. You're Bishop Jake. You're not afraid. He said, are you kidding me? He said, the only difference is I tell fear, you can ride in the car, but you can't drive. So you, the evolved you, the you that's learning, the you that's reaching and clawing and yearning for your authenticity, that you has to gain enough strength to be in the lead.
Right.
Because what you feed leads. And if your energies are, oh God, I'm so awful, I'm so this, I'm trying so hard to become a better person because I got this secret, I got this shame, I got this guilt, you're still serving the guilt. You're still serving the shame. But when you say to yourself, you know what? No, I am ever growing into my best self. Like you said, my 31-year-old is different than my 19-year-old.
Right.
But your 31-year-old and above, the goal becomes you become stronger in your authenticity. You become stronger in who you are. And sure, the 19-year-old can ride in the back seat. The 5-year-old, or the 3-year-old can sit in the booster seat. You can't let your 5-year-old or your 3-year-old drive your car. And for so many of us in our relationships, we are, from a biological standpoint, we are 30, 40, 50, 60. But we're still letting the 5-year-old, the 15-year-old, the 20-year-old pick our relationships. And unless you grow that part of you up, or you grow up the part of you that's the divine, authentic part that can lead, that pain is going to always sabotage your efforts for intimacy. What I learned is I had to start feeding who am I? And going into those places, who am I? Whose am I? And why am I?
Oh.
Because if there is any uncertainty in those areas, it's going to reflect in how you live your life and how you show up in your relationships. And for many people, they think if you can tell them, give them a technique, give them a trick, give them a strategy, they can strategize their way into true love. The only way you can have true intimacy with somebody else is you have to have true intimacy with yourself.
Right.
And you're on the journey. So I want to give you credit for being on the journey. You're asking the right questions. You're asking the right questions of yourself. And requiring yourself to have a real answer. And when you get the real answer, you know it because you feel it inside.
I just know that I know I don't have it all yet, and I am definitely just trying to figure it all out. I'm just very sure that I am tired of being in the ring with every past version of myself fighting. Because people think that like I am in competition with them. I cared less about that. I'm always fighting myself. As you mentioned earlier, the criticism part. I am my own worst critic because I'm in a constant power struggle with myself. And I always used to think that, well, maybe it's creatively. No, it doesn't stop at creativity. It's just the one of many factors that I have that power struggle with.
Yeah, because you haven't forgiven yourself yet. You don't know that you're enough yet. Because whenever you try to do, it's almost like you're doing these things, but you got that 19-year-old saying, yeah, but this isn't enough, that isn't enough, but you did this. But what if this happens? Well, you know what happened before.
Right.
Instead of lion taming your 19-year-old, you got to grow into who you truly are. And the thing about that is no matter how many books you read, no matter how many seminars you go to, that nothing takes the place of the actual work. And you have to have a guide. Mm-hmm. But they always say when the student is ready, the teacher shows up.
Right.
But the student has to be able to say, I want to be taught. The student has to be willing to be taught.
Right.
The student has to be willing to defect on their story. I tell people that what really stands between them and true partnership and real love are the lids. And the lids are an acronym for limitations, ideologies, disconnects, and stories. Those are the things that hold us back from truly showing up the way we have to in order to have the kind of love we want from somebody else. We have to be that love in order to receive that love, to even recognize it in somebody else, especially when it's unfamiliar to us, right?
Right.
And so those are the things that you have to go deep enough down inside until you're able to say to the limitations, oh, wait, oh, you were never limitations at all. I thought you were, and because I thought you were, I kept manifesting this. Ideologies, wait a minute, that's what mama and them thought. That's what society told me. That's what was culturally appropriated for me. But I never took the time. I've been living based on what somebody else said to me. And then the disconnects, the difference between me saying I want love, but then running away from it, right?
Right.
I want somebody to see me, but yet hiding. I want to be in a wonderful, intimate relationship, yet staying with somebody who can never give that to you. The discrepancies, the disconnects. And then there's the story. The story, which is, I think, probably the strongest thing. It's the story that you say, that you're convinced of, and that you tell to other people as the reason why your life is the way that it is. The reason why your relationships are as they are. You are so committed to the story that the universe can't give you anything different. It's only a perspective. It's only the way you experienced it, but it doesn't make it all the way true.
Right.
But if you're committed to that story, there is no capacity for truth. There's no capacity for the universe to broaden you, to broaden your capacity. You're so full of your own story that there's no room in you for the love that you want to have. As a solutionist and as a coach, is to hold up a mirror and to hold them accountable to their own power. I'm coaching a client even now, and we figured out really soon that she would start telling me stuff, and then she'd say, so, but I don't know. Then she'd say something else, and she'd go, but I don't know. And I said to her, you know what? You do know. I said, but when you say I don't know, it takes you off the hook. I said, that's your sexy way of taking yourself off the hook. I said, because you really do know. Because you just finished speaking truth to yourself. And so the emphasis on the I don't know instead of on the truth that you just finished saying. So I'll say, yes, you do know. Say what you said before again. Then I'll say it again for the people in the back. I said, because you just finished saying the answer. You don't want to sit in the answer. So you say, I don't know. But if you start sitting in the answer, feel your way to it. Sit in the discomfort of it until the truth speaks, because that's the way. And a lot of people don't want to do that. They want relief. They want a pain reliever. But the way in, I found it to be true, is you've got to sit in that discomfort, not judge it, not analyze it, not censor it. And for people who are listening in the church, don't scripture it to death. Stop telling yourself scriptures. Sit in the discomfort. Let it be what it is. And if you sit in it long enough, you'll find out the truth. There's a technique that I do with my clients. It's called the 5 whys. I don't know if you've heard of it before, but it's called the 5 whys.
Mm-mm.
And 5 is just an arbitrary number.
Okay.
But you just continue, when you say something, you just keep asking yourself why. And as you ask yourself why, it takes you from your head to your core.
Mm.
What is the real pain? What is the real issue? What is the real thing that you put all these layers on top of? And by continuing to ask why, until you get to the deep, deep parts. And when I did the why on myself, I finally hit the bedrock. It's because I don't feel worthy.
Damn.
When I hit that within myself, tears gushed out of my eyes because I don't feel worthy. That's why I self sabotage. That's why I abandon. Before a man can abandon me, I'll abandon him first. That's why I don't trust somebody else, because I don't feel worthy.
Mm-hmm.
And when I found that was my pain, then I said, okay, that's what I have to work on. Not all the superficial things that I put on top of it, not on the symptoms. The root of it is I don't feel worthy. And
Mm-hmm.
whenever I experience this in life or this in relationships, it takes me back to the original wounding that got compounded.
Jeez.
And until I can resolve that and become that divine part of me that forgives that part, that befriends that part, that sees the beautiful rose and the thorns that are a part of it, and no longer allow shame and guilt to reside there. When I can get to that place of acceptance and forgiveness, then that's when you can really show up in your relationships.
Mm.
Because then somebody can't tell you something about themselves that's going to set you off. Because the reason we run is because what somebody reveals about themselves, either about what they say or what they do, makes us panic because it triggers our own pain. And it's no longer about them anymore. We're running away from our own pain.
Mm.
But when you resolve it, oh my God, when you resolve that you're enough no matter what, and you can build you can shroud it in a different story, a more life giving, empowered story, then you can bring that compassion and that grace to your relationships. And even if that person isn't the right person for you, you don't have to run away from it. You can simply walk away and wish them grace and peace,
Mm.
and not try to change them to make yourself better or to make yourself feel better. But you can let them go and continue to bring that energy of self acceptance and grace into the world. And there's no way you can bring that into the world and it not attract the right person to you. There's just no way.
Right.
So that's the work that you have to do. That's the work. That's the work.
I'm definitely going to have to apply that and do that, because that has my mind thinking a lot. And hitting the bedrock is something that I do need to do within myself. And I think by practicing and doing that exercise, it can give me some more insight. Because ultimately,
Yeah.
I have been learning in different things to that nature, and I'm trying to define the experience and not have the experience define me, but still allow
Mm,
myself and a means to experience the experience. And I think
yeah.
that's what people, let me rephrase that. That's what I am trying to do, because I know that I am very much guided by the experience, but I just don't allow myself to live. And that is the more deceptive nature of my life. Eh,
Because once you've learned that you can trust yourself, once you know that you can be trusted, you don't have to run away from any relationship.
mm,
Once you know that you can be trusted to make the right decisions for you instead of allowing your pain to take you down a path of self betrayal. Once you know you can trust you, then people can be who they are. They can flow in and out of your life. And there's some people that you can walk away from without any guilt
Yeah.
because you've already done enough work on yourself. You already know, no, I can't take a leopard and turn it into a cuddly bear.
Right.
I can't take a venomous snake and be good enough to it that it won't bite me. You see what I'm saying? So you start to recognize what just does not work for you before you've invested more than you can afford to lose. And that's emotional currency. That's the gift. That's the value of the work. Is it hard? Yes, it is. But the value is you get yourself back. You don't have to live like you're sitting in the courtroom waiting for the jury to come back with a verdict as to whether you're enough or not, or whether you can be trusted or not.
That's real. That's
Right.
really real. And I know I've been spending a lot of currency in recent. I have been. And I knew, like, when starting this, it was more than just not, how can I put it? It's more than just cutting people off and get rid of and acknowledging certain things and making your circle small. I knew that if I had these conversations and did these things, I wanted as little distractions as possible.
Yeah. Because my desire for you is joy.
Yeah.
My desire for you is joy. That you find the joy within yourself that maybe because of what you've been through in your life, you've never trusted it because it never lasted. Yeah. That you can learn that you can trust the joy because of the work you're doing, that you can trust the joy. And whether the relationship makes it or it doesn't, you don't have to lose yourself with the relationship or lose your joy. I'm sure you can go through the grieving process, but on the other side of grief, you already know there's joy.
Right.
Because you will have gotten something out of it, something clear. You would have accessed yourself in a way that had you not had that experience, you never would have accessed. And it only makes you better going forward, not bitter going forward. And there is a way that you can relate in a way that even if it's not Mrs. Right, your relationships are improving to the point that you're like, oh, I know I'm going in the right direction, though.
Right. Definitely.
I know I'm going in the right direction.
I do feel that. I do, even though I am not in a relationship, I do feel like I am going in the right direction.
And really you are. Because the biggest relationship hurdle that you have is your relationship with yourself. Once you get that get that in line, relationships with other people, they're only second to your relationship with yourself.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the biggest. So you really are in a relationship.
Just with myself.
And you're learning how to stop allowing your inner critic, your inner perfectionist, your inner prosecutor.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
The prosecuting attorney.
Yeah.
That's arguing against you in your own head. Once those parts of yourself, which are only personalities, they're not the real you.
Yeah.
They're just somebody else's voice in your head. They're not the real you. Once you realize that for sure, then you can sit them down. I can tell somebody, I've told my perfectionist and my inner critic, I put them in timeout. Yeah. They had to be in another room with the door closed, talking amongst themselves, because I was going to lead this right here. And there was no room for them in this. And you can get to that point in your life where you command them. You learn to recognize, oh, I know, I get it. Okay, you're not my voice. You're the voice of my mom. Right. You're the voice of my dad. You're the voice of my first grade teacher. You know what I'm saying? You get to say, oh, I didn't come up with this on my own. You're that voice in my head.
Right.
But what do I say? I've done enough work. I've gotten to know the real me. So what do I say? Because when you get to know the real you and you're at peace with you, that's the only time you can quiet those other voices.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. Jeez. And you definitely given me a lot to think about on top of all the things I've already think about or thought about. But it's a good thing because it actually gives me a sense of the direction my thought process needs to go. It's
Mhm.
one thing to grow, but it's kind of like you know what you need to do. It's like standing in the middle of an open field. It's just like I know I need to get out of the field, but I don't know which direction is out of the field.
Yeah.
I know I can
Yeah.
start walking and it will probably be a good choice in the overall scheme of things is to start walking one direction, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's the right direction. And I think by
Mhm.
having this conversation, it is a big course correct in terms of understanding my thought process this point and also how to improve and refine everything that I've been doing as well. I know this definitely for sure won't be the last of our conversations.
I hope
No,
not.
no, no.
Yeah.
No, 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 no. Definitely not. And it makes me think. And I'm definitely gonna practice the five whys and everything
Yeah.
else. Just because
You'll have to tell me what you discover when you do it.
yeah, I will. I definitely will. Because I've never done that for myself. Never gave myself a chance. I've thought about how I felt, but I treat it as a fleeting moment. Like give
Yeah.
myself a day or an hour, sometimes 30 minutes to acknowledge how I feel and then into the box it goes because I have other things I have to do.
Mhm.
But I think the beauty of this is that I really want to take the time to figure this out. It's one
Yeah.
thing to grow and then there's one thing to grow properly.
Yes, that's right. Because you can either grow better or grow bitter. Yeah.
Right.
And I feel like you're on the right track because you're really seeking. And I've never known of anybody who has sought to know more about themselves.
Yeah. I just ultimately I just want to be a better me.
Yeah.
And initially I was in the process of doing it to be better for someone else, whoever they may be. And that will come. And instead of putting focus on that, it's easier to put myself on the focus of me. And I started thinking this way because I was talking to a friend of mine about the idea of experiencing experiences.
Mm.
And in the
Yeah.
experiences, no matter what they are, you still have to realize that you are the central focal point of those experiences. But if we don't fix the things within ourselves, we truly can't experience the experience.
You truly can. Because the universe is always talking. The
Right.
universe's job is to illuminate us. And because we haven't been taught how to recognize the way the universe communicates, we misinterpret it.
Mm,
Every failed relationship is the universe trying to let you know what doesn't work.
right.
And because we're so determined we want to try to make it work, we'll just get the same person just wearing different clothes because we're trying to get something that didn't work to work.
Right.
And with a new person, same energy, you know, really same person, just different clothes. And the universe is trying to let us know, but that person will never give you what it is you desire, though.
Mm,
That's why it keeps not working because I'm just trying to tell you this is not the right person. This is not the right connection. I'm trying to let you know, but you keep running away. You don't want to go there so you can really find out what I'm trying to communicate or find out why this person isn't the right person.
right.
Yeah, it's like the universe can communicate, but the universe doesn't do your work for you.
Mm,
It's your work to figure out why this kind of relationship or this kind of person does not work in your life.
mm. That makes sense.
And I'm
I
so grateful that for you at 31, my God, if I was talking to this me at 31, oh, it could have saved me so much heartache.
Yeah.
Because I didn't get clear until I hit about 50. That's when I started connecting the dots in the right way.
Right.
I was connecting dots, but I wasn't connecting them right.
Yeah.
But it's finally I got it. Like you said, in that big field, I finally kept passing that same tree. And it's like, wait, duh,
Yeah.
you're going in the same direction over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Don't you see your initials carved in that tree? Right?
Right.
If I had a guide or someone to give me another perspective, to help me to access parts of myself that I didn't know how to access, I would have been so much further along.
Yeah.
But I am a testimony that you really can do it all wrong and still find love if you're willing to course correct.
Mm.
Be open, be willing to be taught, be humble. Let love teach you about itself.
Right.
Let love teach you about you, the truth of you, where the real power is inside of you, to help you to access it and to learn that you are enough. And when you finally get to that point, when I finally got to that point, I met my husband 3 months later.
Damn.
I met my forever love 3 months later. Now I had already had 2 bad marriages
Mm.
and subsequent failed relationships, one failed relationship after another. Unavailable man du jour. That was my thing. Moth to a flame, unavailable man. That was it.
Mm.
Until I did the work. And when I did the work and went in those places and asked the right questions and allowed myself to sit in it instead of trying to run away from it,
Mm-hmm.
I found the truth. I found my power. I found what I was doing wrong that kept getting me what I was getting. I
Mm.
was manifesting what I was doing wrong. It was working. I was getting what I was putting out. It was
Mm.
working. I had to take that energy and focus it down a new and unfamiliar path. And I needed help because
Right.
I was scared of the unfamiliar. I'd
Mm.
never been down that road before. I didn't know nothing about it.
Right.
So I needed help with that. But that path helped lead me to my husband. And I'm telling you, we are about, let's see, we'll be celebrating 6 years
Okay.
in December. And I'm going to tell you this, if he were to come in right now and propose to me all over again, with what I know about him now, I would marry him again.
Wow.
And I never thought I'd ever feel that way.
That's beautiful. And I thank you so much for taking the time to bless the couch and have this conversation with me. And it's an eye opener. And I was afraid and I vocalized my fear. But after
Yeah.
going through it, it wasn't bad as what I thought it was gonna be. And I'm
I'm
glad.
glad you trusted me.
Yeah.
I'm glad you trusted me to handle you
Yeah.
correctly, to handle
Yeah.
your vulnerability correctly, because it is scary to put yourself out there like that. Yeah.
And I think I think that this is something that I wanted to make sure it was for me. Normally, through these types of things, I always acknowledge the listener throughout these conversations. And I'm not saying that they're not there. And I know they're probably going to take this information and use it for themselves in some way, shape, or form. But this truly was for me because these are things
Mhm.
that I needed to hear and get an
Mhm.
understanding on. And again, I thank you for that. And I know this won't be the last of our conversations, for sure, for sure.
For sure, for sure.
But definitely the one time I do acknowledge the listeners, please, I hope that you use this information in a positive way to look at yourself. I know for me personally, I have been the villain and the hero of so many people's stories. And where that definitive line lays now, I kind of don't know. But I'm not here to worry about the line. I am more here to worry about myself and how I can be the hero of my own story. Thank you so much, Miss Suzette, for blessing the couch. Can you please let them know where they can find you?
Certainly. I love social media. So you can find me on Facebook or Instagram at Your Coach Suzette. Twitter, it's the same at Your Coach Suzette, but you don't have the E on the end. They only give you so many characters. And my website is SuzetteSolutions.com. And actually, coming up on what is it, October 29th?
Mm-hmm.
In about 7 days, I am doing a free webinar. And if your listeners are interested, it's how to break the cycle of failed relationships.
Okay.
Right? And that's going to be a free webinar on the 29th at 12 noon Eastern Time. And if anybody is interested, they can go to SuzetteSolutions.com and they'll see the link there and inquire about it.
All right. Thank you so much, Coach Suzette, for just everything. Everything. Listeners, as always, you can follow me IG, Twitter, Facebook at Podcast AOTC, as well as I have the merch store, and there's also Watch Party Wednesdays where I stream movies and all kinds of stuff to kind of, break the ice in this whole staying home kind of thing that we've been going through in recent. As always, thank you so much. This has been Alone on the Couch, and we're out. Bye.
Bye.